What's up, everyone? You're listening to the Three Count Podcast. I'm Delmi XO. Enjoy the show.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club, baby, grind on me.
Welcome, everybody, to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast with Zan's now entering, and now I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, after season 5, our 300 and something episode, I would just hope you say it with me. I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficient than you can. And that's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring today? You can find this person at Wrestling Open. You can find this person at Grind, MLW, Tetsu, ICW, WXW, CCW. Put your heads down for the motherfucking queen herself, Delmi XO.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Red Dog. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Hell yeah. Like, I gotta get it right. It's the God Queen, right? Not the motherfucking queen, but I got too ramped up into it. So the God Queen herself is here.
Whatever you want it to be.
No, that's not fair because that's not what people say. No, it's cool because like we actually have met a few times, whether it be like the Wrestling Open or when we ran into each other actually in Delaware over with like CCW and 1CW, and then I actually moved out to Massachusetts, and then we just kind of met each other again at the Open and at Grind and stuff like that. So this has actually been kind of cool because getting to know you a little bit and stuff like that, and it's kind of like following you like when you're like going to MLW and stuff like that. It's been kind of cool to watch you kind of do your thing because most people who aren't paying attention should be paying attention to MLW, but she will soon be a 2-time featherweight queen because there's no doubt like you have definitely helped bring MLW, the women's division, up like another level. And I've been paying attention to MLW Fusion for a while, so to see the talent like you and like Becca, and of course Zeta Steel now showing up, like y'all are just kind of doing your thing and just kind of keep elevating the game up. So it's cool to watch y'all do your thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's really exciting to be a part of it. And I mean, I was only the second ever MLW featherweight women's champion. So like, it's such a new division. So to be a part of it and to set the stage and the tone for what's going to come next for future generations, it's just so incredible. I'm so happy to be a part of it all.
Yeah, and it who people who don't know, hey, Tyra had to be the one fall. Like it's just what it was. Like you had to be the one to take her out and take that on.
Yeah, right. It's all love at the end of the day, but competition's a competition.
It is what it is. Hey, so real quick, I want to ask this question. This is like one of my favorite questions to ask anybody who comes on this show. But who is Delmi XO?
Who is Delmi XO? Delmi XO is the God Queen. And the God Queen is just this mindset that I have put together after being in this business since I was 17 years old. I'm 27 now, so I have dedicated 10 years of my life to professional wrestling. And I'm pretty confident about what I've been able to accomplish within wrestling. I mean, I came from nothing. I started off training in a barn. And I've gotten this far. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. But in this current day and age, there's only one God Queen, and she's standing.
It's cool because like I know we've had a few people from Grind on the show, right? First person who ever mentioned it to me was actually O'Shea Edwards, and then I started like turning my head and paying attention. And of course, Rip, Perry has been on. We've had Mike Skyros. Now yourself is on. It's cool to be able to get to know the roster and talk with people and then just like see the action that you guys have been building because like it's been 2 years, right? That you guys have been like turning this over. Y'all just had your second show. And it's cool to watch like this brand just start to expand and explode. And you're at the forefront of this, like, you're a co-founder, but you're at the forefront of like spearheading something that's different in the Northeast and like that's been along like anywhere in the US.
Yeah. I will say that it has been 2 years and it's blown up a lot bigger than what we thought it was going to be. I mean, you have high hopes doing anything that you do in wrestling, but from a realistic standpoint, you don't expect to get as much recognition doing something so fast and so early. I will say that streaming nowadays is definitely a huge part in that. So super thankful that we have the IWTV deal and that all the footage gets to be out there on the internet a lot faster than it would have been back in the day with like, sharing tapes or even selling DVDs. So I love making the joke that I'm like, I was born in the right time period for wrestling. Like, I definitely love being able to watch all my friends wrestle like the next day from a match they had like in a different part of the country or in like across the US. Like, this is such a great time to be in the wrestling business and to have grind something that gives part to that and really just keep pushing and making the wrestling business flourish is just something that I'm so proud of and dedicated to work harder to make it even bigger this year.
So I know you said that you'd have been involved in like 10 years in this, and that obviously two of those have been building this soon to be, I'm going to call it like soon to be juggernaut, because as it's growing, like I see the excitement that's like happening around, especially like reading it on Twitter and stuff, or X, whatever. I don't give a shit what you call it. But I'm kind of curious. I want to know, like, what was that moment that you were like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna jump into this professional wrestling thing.
Do you mean for myself as a career or for grind as a promotion?
For yourself as a career. And
Uh,
you know what? Actually, let's go both. Why not go both?
okay. For myself as a career, it's kind of funny. I started off watching wrestling as a young kid. Like my dad and my sister had watched it growing up. So I'm actually 7 years younger than my sister. A lot of people don't know that. So she was well into what her likes were when my brain started getting cognitive. I was probably like 5, and I started realizing, oh, we're watching wrestling, but it was always on. And so I loved it. But the realistic me, and here we are again, realistic Delmi was like, oh, I can't be a wrestler because I am not like an Eddie Guerrero. I'm not a guy who's like in shape athletic. I was a 5-year-old little girl. So I was just like, oh, like that's just something I'm not going to be able to do because you didn't see that. You saw the women having matches, but my little kid brain understood that it wasn't the same as the guys. I was like, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't look the same. And I didn't want to be like a model. I didn't want to do any of those segments that they were doing or like the TV work that they were doing.
Yeah, no.
If you the Attitude Era. I didn't want that for myself. And I remember it was the summer right before senior year. And my sister was looking into finding a wrestling school. We ended up finding one, which was Barn, and going there. It wasn't really a school. They were kind of just trained there. Super backyard. And so we popped up. I took one look at the ring, covered in dust and like pigeon shit, and I was like, I want to do this. Like I need to get in there. Like it just awoke something in me, and I started day one with my sister training, and been in it ever since.
It's funny because like for me, like the moment that I decided, like I graduated out of college, and I had finished up with school, and I was like, yo, I don't know what to do. And I was already well out of the military and like getting into like trying to figure it out, right? Just
Yeah.
what life was gonna bring me. And finally, like I was like had been working out in the gym for a while, all because my daughter told me I was feeling squishy. And that was a wake up call. So like once I like got better in the like better shape, then I ran into this random kid that was wearing a John Cena t-shirt, and I was like, "Yo, are you a wrestling fan?" And we started talking, and then I went into a show. We'll call it the Dark Arts. For those who pay attention for a long time, you know what that means. But it ended up leading me to a dude who was working at a place called Adrenaline Championship Wrestling in Maryland, and he told me, he was like, "Well, if you're serious about this, you're gonna go find Sicken, and if you're serious, you're gonna make this jump." And I was like, I'm dead serious about this, and I wasn't even 100%. And so January 1st of 2020, I was like, whatever, let's go figure this out. And then like I started taking bumps, and I was like, yeah, this is it. This is where I need to be right now. But it's cool. And I started, and fun fact, I started at 35. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I always heard when I first started that wrestling has a finding people who need it. And so that is kind of cool. It is definitely for the broken souls.
Yes. Yeah, it's weird because like wrestling, and it's one of those things that I've come to understand too, is that like wrestling gives you like inspiration to like try other things, right? So by the time this episode comes out, I don't think it'll probably be well documented of what I've been like going through. But I got up here and I was like, I had I moved up to Massachusetts and I had like some time and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, let me figure this out. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna market myself? How am I gonna be different, right? And it's enough to learn and stuff like that. But the one thing I started taking away was I want to learn to sign. And so like I started getting into American Sign Language and like trying to figure out like how to sign things because I wanted the ability to connect with people, not just that are there, right? But people who can't hear it, right? But they have
Yeah.
that one person that's able to connect with them. So I was thinking about, it's like, yo, this will be so much fun to figure out and learn and just like research videos. So I've been like, it's pretty much like every day since for like 2 weeks now. I've just been watching random videos and then just like learning how to sign like my
Okay.
name, which I was like, this is so cool.
Oh yeah.
uh Listen, so we were at Kaiju. I want to tell the story. We were at Kaiju, pro wrestling, and I had did a shotgun drop kick off of the second rope and kind of concussed myself.
Yeah.
So, but you had said something to me too, and I remember this because this was like one of the few conversations I've had.
I remember this. You came up to me and you were like, oh man, like I think I you're like, I think I got myself on that shotgun drop kick. He's like, how do you not like concuss yourself when you do it? And I'm like, oh, I concuss myself every time. Oh no, that's the trick, sweetie. Sweetie, no, like, you gotta commit to that. That is a missile drop kick for a reason.
Yeah.
It is going out there.
But I wanted to bring it up, right? Because you've been doing this for 10 years, and I want to know, like, what's the worst bump you've taken?
The worst bump I've taken, surprisingly, none of the bumps I've taken off the top rope are the worst, and none of the bumps I've taken on the floor are the worst bumps I've ever taken. I think the worst bump I ever took was, and you can find this on YouTube. I took this move from Murloc. It was back in Shikara, and it was like literally like a 5 minute, if that, match. I took this move where he grabs me by basically the hair, but we're holding each other, and he spun me around and let me go. So my little body, I think I weighed like 130 at the time, spun in a full rotation before landing on the mat.
Oof.
That bump wasn't bad. What made it bad was that week, Quack had me come in for practice and he had me practice taking that move to make sure it looked perfect on camera. I think I took it like 10 or 20 times. So because I kept practicing, and I was young in the business, so I wanted to prove myself. So they were like, all right, can we try it one more time? Are you good to try it again? I was like, yeah. my elbow, my elbows from practicing that were sparked, like canvas burned and bruised from like literally skidding on the canvas, that when I took it from Murloc in the match finally, and in like they say there's like match intensity. So like practice is like different, and like when you're in a match it's more intense.
Yeah.
That move, after having taken it the whole week, sucked so bad. I just like wanted to die. Like I wanted to die. I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever taken in my life. That was the worst thing.
It's funny because I remember like and it's funny how you mentioned practice too. I remember one time I was practicing and I was working on a Memphis spot, right? And I was working on a spot with Big Trouble Ben Bishop, right? This is like when we were training. And the person that was teaching us, right, was a former WWE superstar.
Cool.
And every time that I was taking a bump, I was like sitting up and it didn't register in my brain that I was doing it. And so 30 bumps later, finally he broke it down to me, was like, hey, the reason why we're having you do this bump like over and over again is because you keep sitting up. Like just lay down, just go left over right and just get up and then just take the next bump. And I was like, oh, okay.
Why did you say that?
Yeah, I was like, you could have just saved my back, from taking this bump 30 more times. But all right, yeah, cool, we're here. So But it was a good lesson to learn, but it was like I understand because I remember the next morning waking up and I was like, bro, I can't walk. Like my back is so just fried.
Yeah. It's crazy to me, like, how thinking about, like, the first times you hit the ropes and, like, it hurts, and now it's like you just hit them like normal, and it doesn't like your
Yeah.
body's callous to it.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Where I remember, like, I did a giant senton. This was probably like the one bump that I will always remember. But I took a giant senton, because I wanted to do carrots as I was senton, and it was February, and it was like the second month of me training, and I was like, "Yo, this is gonna be so cool!" And I remember jumping off and hitting the mat flat, and just all the air leaving my lungs.
Yeah, no. See, back bumps don't bother me. It's the front bumps, and I think it's the front bumps because of that. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm so horrified of hurting my knees and elbows like I did that one rotation bump.
Yeah, oh man, I feel it for you. I feel for you a little bit on that one.
Yes.
Uh, so it's like you said, it's been 10 years that you're in the business. So I'm sure you have one of these things that I really am going to ask this question about. What's one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn being in the business?
Um, I mean, I guess having thicker skin, I like I was a lot nicer when I got into this business. And not that I'm mean now, not that I bully anyone. I'm not let me take that away, but I was a lot more open. Even though I was a shy kid, I was a lot more trusting, and like everyone was your friend, everyone probably wanted the best for you, everyone who was giving you advice was looking out for you. And so probably like 2 years in, I realized that was not the case.
Hmm.
And you can't trust everyone. That's probably been like the hardest lesson to learn. I'm very now like reserved when I meet people, and it's not because of like me like thinking I'm better than anyone. It's just because I've had to learn to watch my back, and I've had to learn to like you can't be friends with everyone. Not everyone who wants to be friends with you is like there for the right reasons. And that's probably been like the hardest lesson to learn is like knowing how to present yourself where you're formal and like it's not all jokes. Sometimes like everyone's always like, oh, like every locker room's fun, but there's a lot of locker rooms where I go in and I'm like, I have to walk on eggshells now, especially with run and grind, because like you could be nice to someone and then their next question is like, so how do I get booked? And it's like, damn dog. I thought you were just being nice to me for the sake of being nice to me.
Well, it was funny because like I remember having conversations with people about the same thing, right? And I think that's what's so important is that you you kind of lose the genuineness of yourself if you come in and you're just like, "Hey, I want to help and I want to do all these things," and you have these alternative motives, which is like very important because like if you go into a place and you're like, "Yo, I have dreams of just I'm gonna be the top guy, so I'm just gonna do everything that everybody wants me to do," and I'm gonna start asking like little questions and stuff like that. But there comes a time where like sometimes you just shut the engine off, just have fun and enjoy what you're doing. Like full transparency, and yes, I will one day. But I was like, "Yo, I just want to come up here and help. That's all I want to do.
Yeah,
Like I don't care about nothing else. I just want to help. I want to have fun because ultimately." Respect matters more to me than
yeah.
anything else, and I think that's like I think it shows when I talk to people about it because it's not like "Oh, man, I can't wait till the one day they ask me, like, to do this," right? Or I'm like,
I
"Bro, like, I just wanna come help. That's all I wanna do."
different if someone shows up and helps. I think it's different when like I'm somewhere that's not grind and I get approached about it and it's like I don't know who you are. Like if it's someone I've never met before, if it's someone who like I've never had a conversation with, and that's like their first like topic that they want to come with me is that. And like I've had other people like ask me other questions. Like before I had grind, it was always like, oh, how do I get here? And it's like, I don't know you. So I've always had that in the business where like people felt like because I was like around that I owed them something.
Yeah.
Uh, but if you're someone who comes to grind and you help, like for me and Rip, like that means the world to us. Respect that. Immediately like respected that because we did that. That was something you do in the business. Is if you want to work somewhere, you go and you like show face is what it's called, and that's kind of like the key to doing this is like networking, and that's how you get things done. You don't just like, all right, give me the, give me the answer. You know.
You gotta work for them answers. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
can't
I think
copy.
it's yeah, it's one of those things that I've like come to learn too. Is like in this business, like you have to like sweat equity matters so much. You
Yes,
know,
it does. And to the point where you're taking a spinny move 10 times in a row, even though you scrape your elbows, you know?
like I'm
Don't
gonna
do
push
that.
through this.
Also, when you start bleeding, you can say no.
Yeah, yeah. You just, are you sure you're good to go? Like you're profusely bleeding out your elbows. Like, no, no, I got like 6 more left in me. Like I could keep going.
This is gonna be the
Like,
best wash match ever.
yo, but I do, I definitely, I love the fact that that's one of the things. Like sweat equity matters. Like,
Mhm.
it just, it is a foreign idea to me because like when you're in the military, like that's something that you're like brought up on. Like, hey, you're gonna earn rank. Your first couple ranks you're gonna earn, but you're gonna get them, but you got to earn that kind of stuff. And respect goes so far, especially when you're like willing to help out and just put in the hours with everybody else, put in drives with people, because like at the end of the day, they're gonna put their neck out for you versus someone that's like, oh yeah, I just met you like 2 seconds ago. Hey, get this guy on the show. Like, what? No, bro.
Yeah.
Like, do something.
What?
Get him out of here, yo. Hey, let me ask you one more question before we jump into my favorite segment of the Three Count podcast. And 10 years up and down. I know I've seen you at multiple different shows, so I know you have at least 2 of these. But I need one do and one don't of the locker room.
One, two. Shake everyone's hand and introduce yourself. That's 100%. I know you're probably shy. People are not going to think you're shy. They're going to think you're an asshole. So even if you're shy, just introduce yourself. You don't have to shake hands nowadays. A lot of people don't shake hands like ever since COVID, which thank God, because like so many guys don't wash their hands after they pee, and that bothers me. But at least introduce yourself, especially if you're coming in. So like if you're walking into a room, go around and say hi, because the person sitting down on the couch shouldn't like get up. He's tying his boots, don't be rude. So just do that. And then don't, this is so important, and like maybe no one said this one, but like there's a lot of equipment at wrestling shows nowadays. So don't step on cables. Like there's gonna be cables everywhere. Don't step on them. I don't care if they're taped down. Don't step on them. Those are expensive. The like production crew is never gonna say it to you like, hey, get off of that, because they're just gonna be like, again. So like just be mindful of everything that's like plugged in and stuff like that. I remember I was at WXW in Germany, and we were doing a pay-per-view in Oberhausen, and they literally were like, hey, these doors are left open because we have to like run the cables through them. If you close it, you are getting fired. And I was like, I'm going to stay right here and not move. I am not unplugging anything. I'm not risking it at all. But yeah, like there's other places where they'll yell at you. There was Ring of Honor. They used to have the hot like the hanging LED screens that were theirs, and they were like, do not touch the LED screen. I was an extra once. They're like, do not touch the LED screens. And someone leaned against it, and it did like a flicker while they were rehearsing something. And they, oh my God, I was horrified for that person. I was so horrified for that person. But like, anytime you go somewhere and there's like high tech stuff, just like make yourself as small as you can, because you do not want to be the person who unplugs something that's like $1,000 and now they have to rework. That's a big don't. And I know it doesn't get said enough, so I figured I'll say that one.
Fun fact, that's the first time I've heard it on the show.
That's what I figured. I'm like, no one ever says that one, but like that one's like super important. You unplug something, and like Jerry from IWTV is gonna be pissed that you'll never get brought back again.
Yes, make sure. Like I actually, like, it's something that I've like learned too, like just like watching y'all's production and just kind of being backstage and then like out on the floor and just seeing how hard those guys work at IWTV. Do not fuck with their shit. There's a reason why they have it the way they have it. Yo, all right, so let's take this over, right? We're gonna go into this my favorite segment of the Three Count Podcast, and it is the Three Count Podcast 10 count questions. And Delmi, this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast. Whatever your answer is, that is your answer.
Okay. I heard you do this one with Rip, and he is so fast at thinking. I'm gonna blow at this.
That's
Okay.
fine. I've had people legit. I'm telling them like, "Hey, yo, answer this question as quick as possible," and we had 10 questions, and it took us probably 10 minutes. So, hey, don't worry, it's all good. But we're gonna put on the imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing! And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite movie?
It depends on like what we're going for. Right now. If it's Marvel, it's Endgame. Endgame is my favorite Marvel movie. If it's DC, I know this is a cop out, but I really like The Dark Knight. That's the second one with Joker in it. I like Joker. Joker itself was like spoke to me. Right now, it's also Barbie. Oh my god, this is a long list. If we're talking about like a cartoon, Horton Hears a Who is really underrated.
That
Okay,
is super underrated. Yo, great pick. I love that. That is an underrated movie. Yes, 100%. I'm right with you on that. Yeah, 100%. I dig that. And it's funny too because you brought this up. So why don't we just ask this: Marvel or DC?
ah. So growing up, I was DC because I watched Batman the animated series. I watched Teen Titans, and like I didn't read the comic books because I was poor and like you couldn't really afford comics. But like I would look up on Google like different like pictures of what was going on in the comics from the 80s, and I was trying to like understand it all. So like I was really DC. Up until like 2018, I got into Marvel, and I'm spoiled because I got to binge watch as like the Stones were coming in. So that's why I fell in love with Marvel and was like, this is really good cinema. Like, and someone's gonna shit on this, but Marvel sucks. I don't care. Like the way they were like doing all the Easter eggs was so cool in the timeline of it all. Like I got spoiled where I got to like it all at once. And like, we got all our big movies in. But my little kid heart says DC because I'm loyal.
Yeah.
So DC. I know our live action movies suck. I don't care.
Yeah. No. 100%. Actually, keep it 100. Okay. Not that I would knock Zack Snyder, right? But Zack Snyder's universe really some of the movies were done well. Overall, though, I have to agree. Like they're just not there. But The Dark Knight to me, like, is in my top 3 favorite movies of like all time. And yeah. Yeah, no pun intended, but Heath Slater killed that role as Joker. So like,
yeah,
he was the man.
There was so much, and then like Two-Face, and like I just love the idea of like the Batman world too, where it's like the people who are supposed to be good always end up getting pulled into like this darkness, and it's almost like inevitable because that's how characters.
Yes, 100%. So we'll move. Favorite cartoon?
Teen Titans.
Let's go. I like that. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite actor/actress?
Robert Pattinson. Because he was the first one that came into my head.
Okay, I like it. Pepsi or Coke?
Right now, I've been drinking Pepsi Zero. But it's usually Coke. It's usually like Coke Zero, but I recently they had Pepsi at the store, so I was like, oh, I'll try this. And it tasted actually really good. I don't know what happened, but
okay. Favorite podcast?
The 3 Count Podcast.
It's not like we don't have this thing not like everywhere, man. We've been marketing everywhere. Like subliminally, we've been telling people like go check out our podcast. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
One person that hasn't been on this podcast. Andy Brown would be really good. He's a great conversation. Johnny Torres, also a great wrestling mind. And then let's throw a girl in there. I'd love to see Becca because Becca's really funny.
Yeah, I gotta bring her back. I'm not gonna front. Like her and I, like we've had a lot of fun conversations on this podcast. I'm not even gonna lie. Like,
You already had her on, Ava Everett. She's
okay,
she's insane. She's great.
love it. All right, and last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person, and Rip will tell you this too. Favorite curse word.
Fuck.
That's all that needs to be said. But well, those are all my heavy hitting questions. So the last thing I need from you is to let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
You can find me at DelmiXO, which I put in I put right here in my section. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and X.
There you go. She gave you all the handles. She told you where you can find her and follow her, so go do those things. Give her all the loves. So what does that mean? That means our favorite part of a wrestling match. We got to take this home. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and now I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like I said, it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? You see her right there. The God Queen herself, Delmi XO. And you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there. Or you're legitimately just following us on all of our social media platforms. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're following us on Spotify. You're even listening to us on Amazon Music because we're there too. And we're also on iHeartRadio or whatever that dumb jingle is that they do. I don't know, like they don't pay us, so I don't really mind them anyway. But you're telling your parents about us, you're telling your siblings about us, you're telling your cousins, your extended families, you're telling your pets, you're even telling your enemies because we love haters too. So you're doing all that stuff, buying our merch on prowrestlingtees.com or foryourwear.com, or you're really just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii. What's going on? It is Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is just kind of show some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3Count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3 Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better, so we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on foryourwear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love because we want to give it right back to y'all. So, in the meantime, love y'all.